So, after testing ourselves against the competition's best over in Perth, the one thing that we realise now about the Collingwood Football Club is we are not to be taken lightly. We earned that respect that we so richly deserved against Fremantle last week. And whilst we didn't come away with the win, I think it's a moral victory of sorts. But for the sake of getting other opinions, I'll ask the rest of my panel. All right, go on, Critical. What did you think of Thursday's game?
Look, I thought a bit the same. I think absolutely encouraging performance. You have to be proud of them. But at the death, we fell away. We lost our way a little bit. We kicked, I think, 4 times out in the full, in the last quarter with not a lot of pressure on us. So it was a game there to be won, and we didn't take it. Now we have to, I think we want to, and to progress this season to where we'd really like it to be, we need to win a game like that. So I think it's up the ante because we missed that opportunity and we're patting ourselves on the back a little bit. But in the next 3 weeks, we've got Hawthorn, then West Coast, or Port in Port, and then West Coast. Now it's imperative now that we win one and hopefully 2 of those to make up for that loss. So I think it was a real missed opportunity at the end of the day.
Definitely can be seen that way, and especially we were the better team on the day, I felt.
Yeah.
And good teams win out those close games, and despite how good the opposition is, we made them look, a little bit less than what they are last week. Magpie Girl, you watched the game. What did you think?
Oh, I did. I thought it was a really tense game. It was a great, a nail biter. It was a really entertaining game, and you could just see in the last 10 minutes that they were in their absolute desperation. They just started to make mistakes, and that really was the difference in the end, which was, was unfortunate. But overall, it was an unexpected game in that it was such an arm wrestle, and I think that's why everyone, although disappointed, was at the same time really pleased to see the type of game that was played.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went into that game fully conceding the fact that we were going to be slapped around a little bit. That was my initial thought. To see the effort was pleasing, but I can't help but agree with GC. We did miss an opportunity there, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. If we want to top 8 for us realistically is 4 more wins to take it to 12. But to be comfortable with it, you're going to need to win more than that. And we do have a tough few weeks coming up. GC, do you really think it was just the lack of experience that kind of let us down?
Oh yeah, I think that was a big factor. It was their home ground and things. But I still think I'm still cautious of that whole idea is near enough's good enough because we're a young team.
Yep.
So because these things are incremental. You sometimes take a few little steps, but then a team can take a really big step and really announce themselves. And it's opportunities like that, I think, that are really important for a young team. If you take that, then suddenly everyone looks at you and says, oh, hang on, you just haven't just beaten the bottom 6 sides. You've just knocked off a real contender. You are now, and it permeates the whole competition. It permeates your team because it's what at some point in time every really good team has to do. So you get so many chances at it. Grab it as soon as you can is my attitude. So we had a chance there and we didn't grab it. So now we have to really, it ups the ante to say, well, next time we get that chance, it's even more important that we grab it because they don't come all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what Richmond are doing at the moment, isn't it? They knocked off Fremantle and now they've knocked off the Swans, and so you can see them building.
You've got to make your mark.
Yeah.
And when you get the chance, because someone else, if you don't grab it, someone else will grab it and then go past you, and you'll say, why didn't we grab that? We had the opportunity.
Well, you know what? We get it. We get the opportunity to test ourselves against the best, literally the best, this Friday night in what proves to be a great birthday present for me. But
21 again.
I wish.
Okay, happy birthday Friday. Let's get it out there.
It's actually on Thursday. Anyway, it is. It's tomorrow. But
Stop. Happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh, thank you very much. But we had the opportunity this past weekend to test ourselves against the Hawk Reserves, Box Hill in the VFL. We came up with the win. I didn't get the chance to see the game, but Magpie Girl, you were down there. What did you like?
Well, that too was a bit of a exciting last quarter. Very exciting. I think if I remember correctly, we had a decent lead, and then got down to a couple of points, and it was a hard fought out finish. It was terrific.
Oh, it certainly seemed that way. I still haven't seen the replay yet, which is a bit of a shame. GC, what did you like about the game?
I liked a lot about that game. Just on a few individuals, Darcy Moore, possibly the best 6 possession game that a young player's played for a long time. He just bolted out of the blocks, and if he isn't the young colt, because he just looks such a colt when he runs around, he's prancing and he's jumping. He took that big contested mark early. Yep. He kicked 2 goals. He had a big part in another goal. In a team, we only kicked 9 for the day, so he kicked 3. So he was really exciting. Maynard, I thought, also really stepped up. That was his best game, and his strength, I think he might displace Dustin Martin one day as the best fend-off player in the competition. He looked really good. I thought Marsh just put in another really solid performance, and I'm really keen to see him. I think he's ready to play senior football now. He needs a chance to see what he can do. Paddy Carnesis, 3 goals. Didn't do a lot else, but just didn't hurt his chances. Greenwood, I thought a few people didn't like Greenwood that much, but I thought he was really solid. And Ben Reid's a tragic one because he seems to have done something. Now, we're not sure what it is, but he just splayed them for 3 quarters. And he would have been, whatever he's done, he was ready to go this week in the semis. Yeah. And wouldn't he be nice to have against Hawthorn?
Oh, absolutely, especially now that we found out that Goldsack won't play. He would have been a natural plug-in. But I just want to touch on Maynard. He's one that I've always liked, even from his under-18s. He's got the hardness of someone like a Luke Hodge, and a great boot on him as well. Certainly someone that I can see displacing the likes of a Seedsman, who you talk about, as a team not taking your opportunities when they're there. Seedsman really hasn't kicked on from Anzac Day. Whether it's something holding him back or not, this is a spot that I think is now starting to get gifted to him, as opposed to him actually doing enough to earn it.
Absolutely. I think he's that's right. He's exactly in that position of saying, well, you only get so many chances, so don't blow too many, because there's a lot of kids that are ready to go past you. So, and that must be the whole feeling down there in a way. And I would think he'd be feeling pretty apprehensive now to say, well, I haven't really grabbed my chances, and there are blokes right on my back.
It's fascinating because coming into this year, you would have thought spots up for grabs. A chance for a lot of pies to announce themselves. And guys like Kennedy are going to get a solid run, and guys like Carnesis, Carnesis would have had a chance 4 or 5 games at this point in a row in the seniors, best 22, not as a sub, because we weren't expected to be in the position that we're in. But because we've done well, and because the team is performing at such a high level, the competition for spots is so huge, which means our depth is just enormous at the moment.
Yep. And Ben Kennedy's probably the one that suffers the most, because he just doesn't play a bad game, and he gets a sub spot and gets 6 possessions in 15 minutes, which is really fairly good.
Yeah.
He needs a chance. There's so many lining up that's saying to us now, just give me a chance and see what I can do, and we can't fit them all in. So depth does rely a little bit on, it's all right to have a whole lot of blokes that are lining up. Now we need those blokes that are lining up. We need a few of them to really say, all right, I'm stepping up now to be a real genuine AFL player. And maybe someone else misses out because of that. But we need those blokes all on the verge now. We need some of them to step up and become the players we want them to be.
Absolutely. Speaking of the VFL, I believe we had our catch-up this past weekend, Magpie Girl, that you so graciously organised. Tell us a bit about it. How did we go?
Oh, look, we had a small but very enjoyable gathering. We had we were honoured to have TradeDraft there and Danza and 1892 and Swooper, plus Vicky Park and Gone Critical and myself. So very enjoyable. We presented TradeDraft with a cap to...
Amazing.
Sorry?
That was amazing. I love that cap.
Yeah. So that was terrific. He was wearing his old 2012 cap, I think, so he was very thrilled with that. And it was just really enjoyable to, meet a couple of other people. So hopefully next time more will come along. But
put a few faces to names. Always a good thing.
There's a lot of shy people out there.
Absolutely, like Laurie Holden, who won't even speak on our podcast. But that look, it sounds great. I think it's a great thing that we do mid-season, and hopefully we can organise a couple more of these, even informally. But I hope that we get a few people down for the end of year catch up at the very least.
Yeah. Look, it's a terrific spot. There seems to be a bit of a call for something before, probably of an evening, sometime before an AFL game.
Or a Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah.
Saturday Arvo game.
We just got to try a few different times, and a few different people will get along each time, I guess. But we'll aim for that next time.
Until then, I'll have to settle for seeing you guys down at the VFL this Saturday. But I'll be there with Down the Wing, which, mind you, Down the Wing, if you're listening,
back, hi.
Down the Wing lands on Friday,
right.
and he's already messaged me saying that we're going to the VFL on Saturday. So he's a focused individual down the wing. But
I'm sorry, I can't make it.
Time to move on.
I'm going to be in Rwanda on Saturday.
Yeah, you'll be off the gorillas.
Yes. I'm visiting a couple of them. I don't know whose cousins they are, but they're someone's cousins.
Well, speaking of slightly unflattering cousins, it's about time we brought on our Hawthorn supporting friends and discussed the match at hand. So joining us tonight, a Hawthorn fanatic, I think it's fair to say, an unabashed Carlton hater. Messenger, how are you today, mate?
I'm very good, thank you, ladies and gents, and pleased to be here.
Oh, glad to have you, mate. Glad to have you. Let's talk about the great team that is Hawthorn right now, because truly what you guys have achieved over the last 6 or 7 years has been nothing short of remarkable. 3 premierships with 3 almost different game styles. Looking for 3 on the trot now. What's it been like, and how have you seen the evolution of your club?
It's interesting because, in some respects, when you think about and Alistair Clarkson's the cornerstone of that, but really you're talking about a 10-year period where we've played finals in 7 of the 10 years, and I think in the years where we've been grand finalists 4 times, preliminary finalists another time. And really, it's been a sustained record of success, but it's been a process where, if you have a look at the way Clarkson started in 2005, he went from 5-17 to 9-13 in 06, 13-9 in 07, and 17-5 in 08, and a flag. And the symmetry is quite astonishing when you look at it like that. And then there was this period where the league essentially caught up, and perhaps they rested on their laurels, and there was talk of hangovers and what have you. But to my mind, what essentially happened is it was a young group that wasn't quite ready for the success. The other teams worked them out pretty quickly, and it took a couple of years to then redevelop. And that model was very different. It wasn't a model built out of the draft. It was a model built out of trading and later free agency. So you've seen an evolution of game style. You've seen an evolution in list management, and the challenge, as it's the challenge for every team that sort of sits in the top half of the league, is to find ways of sustaining that. and that's what they've been really good at so far. But look, I wouldn't, as a Hawthorn supporter, blessed, absolutely blessed, and it's you only have to talk to a Bulldog supporter or a St Kilda supporter to know how really blessed you are to be able to follow a team that's been able to do things so well for so long.
You guys really have become the benchmark in terms of list management. I personally, as a Collingwood supporter, really do thank you guys for having a lull period in 2010. But as a whole, it certainly has been an impressive build. If we're talking about the year as it is now, it was such a monumental premiership win last year. Even I myself didn't think you'd get over the line against the Swans on that day. It was such an amazing final. Not to watch, obviously, but because, well, for you, maybe not for me. But let's talk about the team this year. Struggled a little bit early, copped a couple of losses, but you've now dispensed of us from the top four. How do you feel you guys are building into the year?
I think if the last few years has taught us anything, when you get towards the end of the season, it really matters how you arrive. And so while you never want to get too far behind in the win-loss count, ultimately this is the pointy end of the season from here into September. How have we done? Look, we've had a couple of very regrettable losses, and we think back to round 2 against Essendon, and then a little later the loss to the Giants at Spotless were, I mean, they're horrendous. They're the difference between being essentially comfortably second, and now in a situation where we're really fighting for the right to go to Perth in week 1 of the finals.
Yeah.
So, they're certainly not at their best even now, I would say. I think they're probably some way off their best football. It's starting to come together, but this has been a very patchy season, and a couple of good teams have really pulled our pants down very early in the season. I think of the trip to Adelaide to play Port, and also the game against the Giants when the Giants were at their best.
Seeing the position of both you and Port since then, there's such a contrast in, I guess, form. Yeah, you've had a loss to the Giants, but I mean, they came out when all guns blazing and caught you off guard. And I think that's where a lot of people thought maybe the Hawks are a bit vulnerable this year. I can't fall for that because I know how good the team is. And as you say, it's about how you arrive in September. But of late, you guys have been playing better football and seem to be a bit more cohesive. You're still dealing with a couple of injuries. What are you expecting in terms of, you obviously saw the Collingwood game against Fremantle, plucky young side. What are you expecting to see out of this? Because I know a few Hawk supporters are a little bit nervous about it. I'm not sure why, but they are.
Oh, I think there's every reason to be nervous about it. I think Collingwood have shown themselves to be a very good team this year, certainly in the last few weeks. And I think the things that I certainly see in Collingwood is the ability to take some of Hawthorn's strengths away, and Hawthorn certainly their strength has been ball movement rather than pace, and they move the ball accurately, and they're very predictable to one another, and I guess this is true of any team, but pressuring the ball carrier is the way to really beat Hawthorn, and ball and forward pressure on the defensive half, because that's essentially where good teams build their game from. So
sure.
I don't think this is there should be a Monty for Hawthorn by any stretch of imagination, and I think Collingwood are every chance to win on Friday night. The game against Fremantle was very impressive. They really grounded out against them and made them earn that win. And I think that if they bring that sort of game on Friday night, they're a good chance to win the game.
Well, let's bring in our Collingwood contingent. GC, we faced one title hopeful last Thursday night. Stood up pretty well for the better part of the contest. What were your thoughts going into this game against the Hawks on Friday night?
I think the match last week was really, really encouraging. I mean, without winning a game, you could hardly be happier with an effort. But at the end of the day, we also fell short. So I think, it was a game that was there to be won if we wanted to win it. So we did fail on that aspect. I think this week again's a different story. I mean, I think Hawthorn are the benchmark for me. They're the best list going round. I think they're building into this season perfectly, really. I mean, I don't think Hawthorn, after winning 2 premierships, want to come out all blazing in the first half of the season. So I think they're probably at their most dangerous. Look, I've seen Hawthorn belt us too regularly to think anything other than if we can get somewhat close to them, it will be our best effort. Yes, look, if everything went right, maybe we get over the line, but I think that's a really long shot. And the thing I don't want to do is get smashed like we have the last few times, which is, I still think, the most likely thing occurrence, unfortunately.
They're such a tough proposition to navigate. Yeah, there's such a tough proposition to navigate, Hawthorn, because as you say, they've had the wood on us, and it's hard to think anything else of it. And despite the fact that we did play those a very good 3 or 4, 3.5 quarters, I guess, against Fremantle, there was a lack of composure and a lack of experience that ultimately was exposed. We're going to miss a guy like Goldsack, who, for all of his foibles, he's a bit of a general down back and sort of a steadying presence. Ben Reid won't play. And I think Greenwood is still unlikely as a bit more hardness in the middle. It's going to be pretty hard to contain this really, really strong Hawthorn offense.
I think that's what they do to us. They belt us into submission, and we lose our composure for some reason. I think it's just that it's just they're a funny team in terms of matching up, because I always think Sydney have that same hard edge in a way, but if we were playing Sydney this week, I would have an expectation that we would win, and I'd be surprised if we didn't. But if it's Hawthorn, I'd be really shocked if we were to win. And they're not that much different teams in terms of ability, but I can't explain why, but we just do not match up.
Weren't we having that same thought last week, though, against Fremantle?
Not particularly. I don't think Fremantle, only Fremantle, because they're playing very well and you're playing on their patch. But if you'd put Fremantle in Melbourne this week, I think we would have beaten them. I think Hawthorn are just, it's funny why some teams don't perform against others, but Hawthorn have been our bogey since the 70s. I mean, we have a terrible record against them almost all the way through. Since they became a power team, we have never performed well against them. They'd be our worst. And it's, you can't explain that because it doesn't really make sense, but I still think there's a fair amount of truth to it.
It's interesting, and I wouldn't mind your thoughts on this messenger, because my thoughts on Freo, I mean, we'll do a comparison between Freo and Hawthorn. 2 years ago, you guys played off in a grand final, and my call that day was Freo can't ask enough questions of Hawthorn. And it seems like Freo can't ask enough questions of most of the top 4, I think, on a consistent level to be a premiership contender. For me, Hawthorn ask so many questions of a team. They demand that you cover so many players, and at the same token, they're shutting down your offense. Do you guys still see, how do you see that sort of discussion, that sort of argument?
Well, there was an interesting thread on the main board, actually, that came up today, and it was talking about the ideal scoring ratios, and I think that comes up with some statistic that teams that score 100 and concede 86, that's sort of the ideal premiership formula. And it's a little bit self-evident because you say, well, sure, if I score more than the other guy, we're going to win the games.
Yeah.
The thing about Hawthorn has been that there's only, in games where we have scored 100, there's only one team that has beaten us over the last 5 years when we've scored more than 100 points. That's Geelong.
Sure, yeah.
Because they're the team that's beaten us the most over that period of time. So really, the Hawthorn, if Hawthorn gets to 100 first, they don't get past. Now, so really what it demands of the opposition is that you score, for the modern game, relatively heavily to win, beat Hawthorn. The thing about Fremantle is that they're the opposite. They're the sort of it's the Paul Rui score. Well, it doesn't matter how few we score because you're going to score fewer. And and I've heard this said a few times, but it really keeps teams in the game, and it certainly kept Collingwood in the game. And I can't remember how many Fremantle ended up with last week.
It was 80 to 73.
So 80 to 73. Now it just keeps teams in there for longer, which means that if you do slip up mentally or a couple of you guys are down, it doesn't take much for the opposition to pass you. And so it's a more of a, how would I put this? It really depends more on how Fremantle feel than on how you perform. You're always in with a chance. But I think teams like Hawthorn and Sydney as well score heavily and demand that you do something positive to actually beat us rather than wait for us to fall on our own sword. Now, occasionally when Hawthorn do fall on the sword, it's because they can't kid a cow's ass with a banjo kicking goals. But that to me is sort of the epitome. That defence first thing does sort of beg for people to beat you and or beg for you to slip up, I should say.
GC, who do you think ends up coming in for the Pies? As I said, we're going to miss Goldsack. There are some question marks on a few players on performance. Obviously, we played pretty well, so you can't swing the axe. But who is the guy that comes in? Is it someone like Marsh for a first game against Hawthorn and the proverbial baptism by fire?
I think if Grundy's fit, I think you slot him in. I think Marsh is the player I would love to see replace Goldsack because he's got that's a bit of fierceness. He's very raw, but I thought he was very strong in the VFL on Sunday. You know, he plucks a few marks from behind. He hits packs hard. He's got great pace. I think he's been begging for a spot for a while, and he deserves it. And I hope he gets it ahead of Maynard and Scharenberg and those guys because I don't think they're ready. I think Marsh is definitely ready.
Yeah,
you have to see what he's worth. So I'd be looking at. I'm hoping Grundy's fit. If he's fit and Marsh fit, Goldsack out, and I think Seedsman out.
I think you might be right. Seedsman definitely might need a spell on the sidelines. He's been teasing a bit, but not really performing to the level. Messenger, what about for the Hawks? We saw the Box Hill Hawks in action against Collingwood. There's bad news for my lookalike in what's his name? Oh, damn it! The gentleman who did a hamstring, Spanger, who I absolutely love.
Yeah, he actually did a calf, as I understand it, and that's usually an old man's injury, isn't it? And he in fact hasn't. The last senior game he played was the grand final, so he's really struggled this year. Frawley is the one that's out for us this week. He dislocated his shoulder against the Bombers last week, and although they say missed 3 or 4 weeks, I would not hold my breath if he was out for 6. Given the injury. Look, like for like, I guess it depends on if they believe they've got another Collingwood tool that they need to match up on other than Cloak down back, and certainly Lake will take Cloak, and that would be fairly self-evident to me. So Schoenmakers is sort of the best like for like slot in there. Otherwise, you've got Gibson, or you ask Gibson to take a more defensive role than a creative role, or you use Ben Stratton to play tall. But yeah, Schoenmakers would be the like for like. They've also got. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say Schoenmakers in the VFL on the weekend was poor. You'd have to say. So I think if he gets a game, you're bringing in a bloke who's not performing well, at least.
And it wouldn't be the first time he's been brought into the senior side on the back of lukewarm VFL form. He still seems to have the faith of the coaching staff, and look, he's our whipping boy. For right or wrong, he's the guy that everybody blamed for everything, and I have to feel sorry for him in some respects because he came over as a forward, went down back almost out of necessity, and is sort of. Then had trouble getting past to guys like Roughhead and Gunston and the like to get a forward spot. So the other option they've got is they've got young Taya Miles, who's would debut on Friday night if he gets picked in. He's in the 25, but he's a fairly lightly framed young sort of midfielder come forward. He'd probably play as more of a forward pocket, but I don't see him pushing out Puopolo or Brewster or anything like that at that spot. So I think he'll probably be named as an emergency.
In a way, would you think that Gibson and Lake are probably enough on our forward line for you?
It might be, and they might. And look, if there's anything that will worry Hawthorn is Collingwood have got a lot of midfield depth, and when you can sort of rotate a dozen guys or 14 guys through the midfield, that's probably a bigger challenge for us, given that we do lack, across the board we lack foot speed. So I would tend to think that it'll be a mid, and I'm just struggling to think of the rest of the extended bench, to be perfectly frank with you. I apologise for my lack of research.
Can I ask you about one guy we played a practice match against you guys very at the start of the season, but Jed Anderson was electric that day, and there was a lot of talk that he was the next big thing at Hawthorn, but he hasn't kicked on this season. What's happened there?
He missed all of last season with a quite a bad shoulder injury, and he just seems to have lacked the ability to. He just hasn't taken his opportunities this year. I must say I'm not a very fair watcher. I don't get down to Box Hill very often, but he's really struggled just to cement a place in the side, really, and there hasn't been too many places up for grabs this year. So
they just hasn't been good enough, basically.
That's the essence of it. Yeah, he's done all right. He's also competing with guys like Jonathan O'Rourke and to get in the spot, and Will Langford has been an issue for him to get past as well. So look, he's still got a very good future. They rate him very, very highly. So yeah.
Well, we're going to leave it there, chaps, because we have we've got to get finished in a few minutes. But I really appreciate you coming on, Messenger. The thing is, I hear you talk about all these names on the Hawthorn side, and they are an intimidating unit. When you can lose a guy like Frawley and not be too stressed about it is an enviable position, I've got to say. Thank you so much for joining us.
No trouble at all, and I wish you good luck, but I wouldn't mean it.
Yeah, right back at you.
Well, let's hope for a good game at least.
Exactly.
Oh, look, I'm sure it will be. I think you guys will have a really good season this season.
Terrific, mate. Well, enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you for coming on, mate.
Thanks for joining in, Messenger.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Before we finish up tonight, I just want to say a special thank you to Magpie Girl and everyone involved in getting us an exclusive interview with a budding Collingwood superstar. I think that's fair to say. He's taking the competition by storm, or he will be very shortly. Taylor Adams, Magpie Girl, great effort, well done. This is a great coup.
Thanks, Marty T, and big thank you to the Collingwood Football Club, in particular Luke Mason, for helping get it all together.
Look, it's a great thing that the club can do for us when they can get us a few players and get a bit of an insight into their world. And I hope that the interview was enjoyable listening. I certainly enjoyed hosting it. It was good fun talking to Taylor. Always good fun talking to players. So please be on the lookout for it, everyone. It is a separate podcast to this one. So yeah, have a listen and leave some feedback, and I hope you enjoy it. Other than that, we've got TD's rant this week.
Yeah, we've got that. Yeah.
Excellent, fantastic. TD's rant coming up, so it's always worth sticking around for. So please keep listening. Thanks again, GC, for coming on.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable again, and go Pies. Oh, wouldn't you love to win this week?
Oh. It would be something else to win this week. It'd be it'd be pretty impressive. And once again, Magpie Girl, thanks for GC. Please make sure you listen to the interview. I really respect your feedback, so I'm curious to know what you think.
You'll be getting it, buddy.
And Magpie Girl, thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure as always, Mighty T.
And Laurie, as always, for doing the recording. This time twice this week, so he's been doing double duty. So
no problems. Thank you very much.
you're most welcome.
And you didn't answer the questions, Laurie.
Which questions?
Well, just to get his voice on the podcast. I thought he was going to come. I could feel him coming. I could feel him. Not. It doesn't sound quite right, does
it? You mean you didn't record that little bit, Laurie?
But for another week, this is the Mighty T signing out.
Okay, this is TradeDraft's round 14 rant. My rant is going to be about how we lost the game last Thursday to Fremantle, because yes, we were expected to lose against Fremantle, and we were very good for 4 quarters in effort, because our effort was very, very good. Tackling was insane, had tackles in the 90s, and the pressure was amazing. But in that last quarter, our composure, we seemed to panic a bit more in the last quarter, and we made stupid mistakes by kicking the ball out of bounds in the full. Was it 4 times? And well, if you can't do that to win a game of footy, if you get out of bounds 4 times, then well. And our backline seemed to really panic. The backline seemed to panic, especially I see Brown a couple of times kicking out of bounds before he was stopping his man, but panicked with the ball in use. And the thing that was really wrong was the last 20 seconds. Goals were kicked in the second and third quarter. The second one was from goals, a horrible effort taking him out. It was a shocking effort. He missed the fumbles, dropped it, not good enough. I knew as soon as he dropped it, Aaron Sandler's in the ruck for Freo, they're going to kick a goal, and they did. And same thing happened in the third. We had a contest, and Sandler's, how good he is, just roves it to the best player, to Waters, and kicks the goal. Those 2 things cost us the game. Now we're going up against Hawthorn, who I agree are better than Freo. Not playing as good as Freo at the moment, but are better than Freo. So we even have to play better than we did Thursday, Friday night to win this game. But hopefully that loss has grained into the players that they want to win this. They want to win this game. And they're not going to let the same mistakes happen the second time we play them. This time we play against Fremantle, not Fremantle. Next week we play Fremantle in the finals. I reckon it gives us a chance to win, but hopefully against Hawthorn we don't make the same mistakes, and hopefully we can put another 4 quarters in. Hopefully the mental mistakes and skill errors, even decision-making errors in the last quarter, we can cause a bit of a boil over and knock off Hawthorn. Well, I still tip Hawthorn to win by 3-4 goals, but can we win again? We're definitely a chance. End of rant.